I'm very curious. When you launched your wedding photography business, what were the steps that you kind of took to get things off the ground initially? Like, what were if you were to go back and do it over again? What would be your process?
Uh, if I, well, looking back, how I launched it was that I knew very little about photography itself. So practicing was a big thing for me and
Hmm.
just constantly photographing. And the great thing about being a traveling consultant was that I had lots of things to photograph, everything from the planes, the travel, the airport, the client site, even though that they weren't excited about that. But going out new cities, even though I never saw new cities, but just like, transporting between the hotel and the client site. There were lots of cool things to photograph, lots of different types of light. So I think constantly working at it was step number one. And then number two is how to get new clients. And for me, I had no idea. But at that point, I barely knew how to use a camera. So I said, I'm going to do as much free work as humanly possible because there are very few strings attached when you do things for free, especially when it's low pressure. So I didn't want to do any weddings, but a lot of engagement sessions, a lot of fake weddings. So people would get back into their wedding dresses and bounce around and stuff. And granted, a glorified portrait slash engagement shoot is not similar to a wedding. So then you had to do step three, which was assist for free forever. So I did a lot of free assisting work and I saw a lot of different styles of wedding photographers, how they ran their businesses, how they would lead. And I would craft these emails and phone calls to be, I would like to help you in any way that I can. And I would like to learn and exchange. And I will not poach your business. I will not use the photographs I take at your wedding for my own portfolio. I will not step on any toes. So I had to do a lot of research on what toe stepping activities would be in order to say, hey, photographer, I'm not a threat to you. With that said, I think I emailed about 100 wedding photographers in the Boston area. Two got back to me. And I'm very thankful for those two. So,
This is gold.
those, yeah.
Anthony, I think you got your a couple audio snippets in here. So Nicole, what would you say to the common kind of advice that's given today? Never work for free. Don't assist for free. Don't shoot for free. That's a bad idea.
I disagree respectfully because I think that those relationships that you build by offering volunteer services in exchange for learning, I mean, it goes back to apprenticeship and mentorship and uh, just helping out somebody else. I think it's really worthwhile. Why? And maybe I'm old fashioned, but why am I supposed to get paid for something when I truly am probably more of a burden?
Hmm.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with working for free when you're learning and you're starting off. But I would also put into the consideration that don't fuck up because if you fuck up somebody's wedding, that's awful. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna go to a bad place later on in life. Like that's just not
You're
great.
gonna go to a bad place in life.
So be very considerate about what you're doing and what the worst thing possible could happen, and be very cognizant of that. We're starting off for paid work, I would charge as much as I possibly could. And then I would take all of that money and I would hire people who are far more experienced than I so that I could have a security blanket to say, I don't know what I'm doing, but I got paid this money and I want to hire you so that you can help me so that I can learn and make sure that I don't mess up. And I've
Hmm.
been that person to help new photographers before, and I've been happy to do it for them.
Yeah.
And I think that by doing that, we will lift the industry together. We will not have people who are working for pennies on the dollar. And I don't know. I think working for free is okay. Everyone needs a photographer. And if you're going to grab a couple who's having their 10th wedding anniversary, I'm not damaging the industry by doing a quick shoot for them and learning how to pose in really difficult light.
To the people that say like you should never do free work, I want to scream like a giant fu. Like that is some of the worst advice I have ever heard. And it's not the way that I know most legit people that come up. Just like you said, you don't charge when you can't deliver a specific type of product because you're new to it. You don't
Mm.
yet know. You haven't cut your teeth. And when you're not charging, it releases you of the liability of like, well, if they're not paying for something, then their expectations can't be that high. So it
Hmm.
allows you to have this freedom and flexibility to learn and to grow. They're getting value because they're not paying for something, and they're definitely getting more than what they, are paying for. Otherwise, they should hire somebody that actually has experience. And then on top of that, I've had so much business come from strategic free events, basically, where like we will partner with vendors and other people that are coming up in the industry to do styled shoots and creative shoots where we'll create concepts, and everybody's working for free, and we get tons of business out of it. Like some of our best experiences have been that, and I can name so many of these. But the industry, and I feel like it's oftentimes it's the grumpies, it's the people that are older that are threatened, are the
Mm.
ones that are saying things like, don't ever do this. And it's true. Like, hey, if I've shot, like at this point in my career, doing a wedding for exposure makes absolutely no sense. That to me
Hmm.
would harm the industry. Like
Hmm.
that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But being smart and doing these things when you're kind of coming up, so critical. So I
Yeah, you've
love
got
that
to
you
get your
said that.
name out there. Yeah, you've got to get your name out there. You've got to find ways to make relationships and those connections. And I remember way back in the day, I styled shot all the time. I would connect with all the wedding planners and all the venue coordinators and say, what styled shoots can we coordinate for you to show
Mm,
more work? And that was a great way for me to push out lots and lots of content very quickly because I had none to share. And the business that Jason and I started last year, that Venn diagram business that wasn't awful, we did a lot of free work to get our name out there. And
yeah,
it was necessary. I don't know how else we could have.
yeah. So the other piece I love about that story that you told was how many people that you contacted just to get two people to call you back, and then going out and actually assisting and working with other people for free to get started. And again, you're absolutely right. Like if someone reaches out to me and they're like, I'd like to be an assistant. My rate's $20. I'm like, I got, we got a whole team of people that want to come out. It is a complete liability bringing you out to my shoots. Like there is
Hmm.
no chance that that's going to happen, let alone I'm going to pay you to be a liability. Like that's
Hmm.
insane to me. But I love the way that you're kind of describing the process because it is a grind. And if you're unwilling to do those things, if you're unwilling to, cut your teeth working for free, assisting, carrying things, then it's probably not a good fit. Like, I don't think you're going to be able to stick around long enough to get any substantial experience or make a dent.
Definitely. And I think to answer your second question in terms of what would I do differently, I would have taken a lot of shortcuts. Like if I, knowing what I know now, if I could rewind 10 years ago, I'd take a whole ton of shortcuts. I would ingest a whole ton of money into different avenues for marketing. And I
Mm,
think I would be able to zoom ahead much more. But 10 years ago, you're bootstrapping it. Everything
yeah.
you're kind of broke. I'm kind of broke and I'm trying to figure out how to do all this covertly without my parents finding out. And, you know, putting in a whole ton of money wasn't, it was risky for me at the time and I was scared. Um, but if I had more courage, I would have just dumped in a few $1,000s, maybe even tens of thousands of dollars just to jumpstart the first couple years.